top 10 if I gave you a top 10 AFC, NFC quarterback combination. The first one's an easy one. That's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Highest win percentage by any quarterback coach combo in the Super Bowl era. That's an easy one. He's the great play designer, a clever play caller, and Mahomes right now is the most gifted quarterback potentially ever, but certainly playing right now. Number 2, I'd go McVay and Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford, because of his years in Detroit, was overlooked. Next to Mahomes, maybe the best arm talent in the league. Sidearm, does everything but throw it left-handed. Big over-the-top arm. I think McVay may be the smartest coach, period, in the sport. I'd put him at 2. I'd go John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson 3. Bottom line is they've won 10-plus games and reached the playoffs in 5 of 6 years. Listen, Lamar is different, and you're going to have a different offense with him. But if you can win 75% of your games, especially in the AFC North, to be that good perpetually, I'd put them 3rd. I'd put Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert 4th. Now, a little bit of that is a projection. I think Herbert's a remarkable talent, and there's an argument to be made. College and pro, Jim Harbaugh's the best coach on the planet. So I would put them 4th in the coach-quarterback combo. I would put Sean McDermott, Josh Allen 5th. And I think we all know Josh is probably, even more so than Mahomes, just physically on a different planet. Size, speed, arm strength. There's just nothing like Josh Allen in the world, including Mahomes. I think the misgivings we have sometimes, defensive coaches in big playoff games against offensive coaches we worry about, but they've got 4 straight division titles. They're obviously a very good football organization. So I would say 4 of the top 5 are AFC. Okay, so that right off the top, once again, it's the AFC. You can argue about the order after Reid and Mahomes, certainly. I would go to the next 5, and I start with another AFC.
Okay, well, let's unpack this first, though, and then we'll go to the next 5. Because I just don't see how you possibly could put Harbaugh and Lamar up there. You have to bring, for you to be a top coach QB combo, you have to be both elite and feed off each other, truly help each other, right? We know Reid helps Mahomes and Mahomes helps Reid. You need to have that synergy. Same thing with McVay and Stafford. Harbaugh and Herbert, which Colin said is a projection, that'll be, but I firmly believe that. I'm a firm believer in Herbert and Harbaugh. There's no synergy with McDermott and Allen. 0. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And same thing with Harbaugh and Lamar. I do not see the synergy. I just don't. I mean, I still think, and I've been talking about this a lot recently, but I still think it's like indefensible, whatever the heck that game plan was, against the Chiefs. I mean, it's indefensible to me. I just don't know what it was. And so I reject it. I don't think Harbaugh has done a good enough job to put Lamar in a position to succeed come time playoffs. It's a lot of, hey, Lamar, just go be you. Hopefully you can pull this win out. And it's the same thing with McDermott and Allen. So it's like these defensive coaches do not put their great quarterbacks in a position to succeed. Andy Reid puts Mahomes in a position to succeed. McVay puts Stafford in a position to succeed. And I believe Jim Harbaugh will put Herbert in a position to succeed.
Team, Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. Now listen, Bengals have reached at least the AFC Championship in any year Joe Burrow's been healthy. Now, I do believe he is one injury away from real adult conversations on looking to draft another quarterback at some point, maybe not a first-round pick. But now this is his first year without offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, who's the Titans head coach, so that'll be a little interesting. Then, starting at number 7, I feel like the NFC teams are on the come. Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love would be number 7. I'd like to see a little bit more of Jordan Love, but the last 10 games of the year, the kid was on fire. And I'll give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit. When Aaron Rodgers was there, I felt like it was Aaron's offense and Aaron's team. I thought last year Matt LaFleur could really flex. I thought he was really clever. I loved his game plans. I loved his alterations at half. I thought Matt LaFleur really established himself as a top 5-6 coach in the league. Number 8, Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. Listen, they've won 12 games each of the last 3 seasons. Nobody else in the league has done that. McCarthy's a good, solid coach. Dak's a solid. You can argue they're both B+. But that gives you number 8 in the NFL. We want more in January. Number 9, I'd probably go Tua and Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel's sort of Kyle Shanahan West. Very clever. When Tua's healthy, there's an argument this is the Breeze-Sean Payton relationship. Tua's accurate. Do I think he can go up in cold weather to Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati if it's 13 degrees and windy? Do I think he can go toe-to-toe with a Mahomes or a Josh Allen? No, I do not. But you don't have to play those guys much. Cross your fingers, the weather goes your way. Number 10, I'd do Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell, in my opinion, can be a little bit too much led by emotion sometimes. I don't love all of Dan Campbell's situational coaching. Highly emotional guy. I wish he was a bit more restrained. But I've been saying this about Jared Goff for years. Throws one of the prettiest balls in the league. The Lions have winning records in back-to-back years. If I had to go 11, I'd go Shanahan and Brock Purdy. So I could say the bottom 6 through 11, there's a lot more NFC representation. But I still think, by and large, the AFC at the top, 6 of the top 10 quarterback coaching combinations.
Okay, that is wild. I don't even realize. This is going to be confusing to even unpack because I'm so blown away. I usually like and agree with majority, quite frankly, of what Colin has to say, and even his lists or whatever. But, okay. When we put these coach quarterback combos, it's not necessarily saying that if you put, let's say you put, and this is a made up example, so don't freak out. But if let's say we say, I want to put Jared Goff and Dan Campbell, let's actually just say McDaniel and Tua above McDermott and Allen. Not saying that Tua is a better quarterback than Josh Allen, right? But it's just kind of like, if we're saying that each quarterback or each player can bring, a certain percentage, certain number of points. Let's say, McDaniel is worth 50 points and Tua is worth 50 points. That equals 100. Allen is worth 60 points, but McDermott is worth 30 points. So that only gets you to 90, right? So it's this, to me, when you're talking about coach-quarterback combos, it's this synergy. It's what you guys can do collaboratively. And sometimes a coach can pick up more of the slack, and sometimes the quarterback picks up more of the slack. So that's why, first off, I'm putting LaFleur and Love way higher above, because again, it's the combination. It's the duo. It's the 1 + 1 = 7, not 1 + 1 = 2 in this regard. So if you had to pick, right, you're not saying who would I rather pick as my quarterback, Jordan Love or Lamar, or we're building a new team, which combination, we can only pick these, from these combinations, which would you rather have? I'm not picking a Lamar and Harbaugh combination. I do not trust that combo, okay? If you said Lamar and Jim Harbaugh, it's like, well, then that's a no-brainer, right? If you said Lamar and, say, a McDaniel, it's a no-brainer to me, right? Like, so again, it's like, it's this synergy, which does make this list like pretty fun to kind of contemplate, because we know Shanahan, right? We know Shanahan is an unbelievable coach. We know he's obviously a top 10 coach, but obviously from Colin's viewpoint, Purdy is so not good that he's not even, in this combination, that he literally rather have Dan Campbell and Jared Goff over Shanahan and Brock Purdy, which is quite frankly shocking. And so it's just, you're going to put McCarthy and Dak Prescott above Shanahan and Brock Purdy. That's just insane. Brock Purdy, I understand you guys don't want to give him his flowers or say that he's this elite top talent. Fine. But to say that him and Shanahan don't execute that offense perfectly, masterfully, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, like, that's an insane statement to make. And he wants to talk about McCarthy and Dak 3 years in a row, winning 12 games or whatever. Like, wow, congratulations. Well, what about Brock Purdy and Shanahan getting to back-to-back NFC championship games and a Super Bowl? Like, what's more impressive? Like, what are we talking about? Like, that's such a no-brainer to me. I mean, it really, really is. So the whole this whole list as a whole is kind of bizarre. And you rather have McDaniel and Tua over, say, a Shanahan, and a Brock Purdy? Like, man, I don't know about that. Would you rather have McDaniel and Tua over Campbell and Goff? Like, I don't know about that either, right? Like, it's just kind of bonkers to me. Would you rather? And Joe Burrow and Taylor are the hardest ones because of the injuries, right? We've just have not been able to see a sustained Joe Burrow and Taylor run. So, like, to me, that's the hardest. We've seen what Taylor was able to do with a backup quarterback and still be able to kind of like win some games and make some moves. But before, it seemed like Taylor was going to not be anything, and then Burrow was able to step up, and it was like, okay, wow. And so it's kind of hard to evaluate just how good that combination is, because we know how elite Burrow is, but it's like, are people sleeping on Taylor? I think Taylor's great, and so I think they're a great combination as well. It's like, if I had to choose, like if I had to pick a quarterback, right? I personally would rather have Josh Allen over Joe Burrow, especially when we're talking about injury issues and whatnot. But I'd rather have Taylor and Burrow over Josh Allen and McDermott. I do not believe McDermott is a good coach at all and has been completely holding Josh Allen back. I am a firm believer in that. Now, I'm not saying that McDermott is a trash coach. I'm not saying that he's awful and deserves to never coach again in this league, but he is not bringing out the best and setting Allen up for success. They have the revolving doors of OCs, and to me, it's been nothing shy of a disaster, because Allen should, quite frankly, be able to have a Super Bowl or two at this point. And they're just doing a terrible job of putting them in putting Josh Allen and the Bills as a whole in that position. So I really take issue with that. So to me, this list, I'm trying to think if there's any other quarterbacks. You can also talk about C.J. Stroud potentially, and DeMarco. Again, it's hard with these quarterbacks who've only gone this 1 year to kind of really establish this. But like, if you had to pick a quarterback head coach combo, like, would you rather have McDaniel and Tua over D'Amico Ryans and I might have said DeMarco before, D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud? Who would you rather have at that point? You know, like it's a fascinating back and forth. I mean, because also when you're looking at some of these coach QB combos, it's like, is it Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, or is it Ben Johnson and Jared Goff? Like what are we talking about here? So it's also difficult, and that's why I trust like a LaFleur and Love, because I know LaFleur is the brains of that offense and Love is the executioner. So I think, and same thing with Harbaugh and Lamar, I look at him like, well, Harbaugh is not the brains of that offense, so I'm not so sure. And we know that Lamar, at the very least, needs a good OC and an actual offensive mind to help run that offense. And if Harbaugh doesn't have that, then what is Lamar doing? So I try to look at it where if I could just pluck these pieces and say, I need the best duo. What can I do? What can I build out from this? And that's why, of course, Reed and Mahomes are number one. And I think Stafford and McVay is a great number two. I was talking about this again with Travis O'Shea, as I referenced in a previous video, how we were looking at film. And like, Stafford and McVay are just an absolute deadly combination. Stafford is a brilliant and elite quarterback. Unfortunately, a lot of people just don't really know how great he was, because he was left to starve in Detroit. And then by the time he finally got to LA, he's a little bit older, a lot bit older. And it's just, it's just a little bit harder to evaluate. And then, of course, he got banged up and injured. And then the team as a whole kind of just somewhat fell apart, because they kind of went all in on winning that Super Bowl, which they did, of course. But the truth is that Stafford and McVay are indeed the truth. They are deadly. And if Stafford was able to get to McVay 10 years before, they would probably have at least 2 or 3 Super Bowls. Not a doubt in my mind. McVay and Stafford are both that good. I know a lot of people are low on Justin Herbert. Herbert's an unbelievable quarterback, and Harbaugh will finally be the coach to be able to kind of prove that and sustain that. You guys know I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, but I do not believe Nick Sirianni is a good head coach, so I would not put that combo up there. I'm trying to think real fast last minute if there's any other interesting combinations with head coach quarterback duos. I'm trying to quickly run through my mind of them, and I can't see them, can't find them. But yeah, no, this list is fascinating. I just don't know how many of these would people really be willing to pick? We see the name Josh Allen, you know, or Joe Burrow or Jared Goff or whatever, and it's like, but do we want that coach attached to it? How much better would Allen be if he had McVay as his head coach? The answer would be through the roof. How much better of a position would Allen be if John Harbaugh was his head coach? The answer is not that great. Probably a little bit better, but not that much better. And it's like, therefore, to me, that's your answer right there in terms of how impactful can a head coach be. Would Shanahan and Josh Allen be at that top of the list? Would they be number 2 or number 3? You better believe it. Maybe even number 1, right? So this is actually an interesting topic that I wish he unpacked longer than just this short little segment. But yeah, no, honestly, at this point, I'm just going to leave it up to you guys. Like, what do you guys think? What do you think the top 10 coach quarterback combos are? It's hard to kind of work out, you know, out loud, because it's just so many different variations that you can kind of, and so many reasons and logic for all the different combinations why you can argue for or against, which is what makes it so much more complicated, but also equally as fun. So let me know in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.